Well, here I am. I'm at Gravity X. They're actually a winery, brewery. I decided to start my show, my first vlog, with this story because it was one of the instrumental in my successes, or one of my successes. And I wanted to came to this home brewing store so that I could show what elements and how I actually made money with glassware. So I was, I'm going to tell the whole story, but I wanted to show exactly what we're talking about while I'm here at Gravity X. This is what we call a carboy. It's got some weight to it. It's about 14 pounds. And he's got a price on here of $41.99. This is what they actually use for brewing or home brewing beer and wine. The reason they use glassware is because it's non-porous, so it doesn't get any bacteria in there, so it's a very clean environment to brew wine and beer. Now, I'm not a home brewer by any means, but when I bought a winery, which I'm going to get to in the entire story, I wanted you to see the gravity and the size of these bottles and what exactly we're talking about. And of course, everybody knows what the size of a wine bottle. But in the story, I purchased 1,000 cases of glassware or wine bottles, brand new in boxes, much like these. So, as you can see, this is a bunch of cases here in his store. I had 1,000 of these cases, and I'm going to get to the whole story in a minute. But I just wanted to take you through to give you an idea of what it is a carboy is. So there it is. And he's selling them for, like he said, 42 bucks a piece. Hi, I'm Kevin. Thanks for stopping by. I want to go over a couple things. I'm really excited about starting my video blog, and what I'm going to start out doing is going over all of the different opportunities and successes that I've had over, well, quite a few years actually. But what I want to start out with is the one story that makes the most sense, that I told one of my friends, and he couldn't believe it, and I just thought it's just business as usual. And what happens is, I bought a winery. And how does that happen exactly? And I bought a winery for $2,500, and I made about $85,000 all in all. So $2,500 investment, $85,000 profit. How did you do that? Well, it's a little out of comfort zone, and that's what we're here to talk about. I have a little Australian Shepherd. She's pestering me, so if that goes in the video, we'll see. Anyway, starting up in Asheville, North Carolina, I had a business up there. I had a building that I could work out of, so I had a little bit of space. But I went to the Asheville Chamber of Commerce in order to build my business and get started and meet some people in business and whatnot. And I made a couple friends there. Actually started the Asheville networking group, but we'll get to that later. What I did was, I had a friend was a realtor, and he invited me to come along with him on a property that he was going to inspect and hopefully list. Well, the property was in what we call, it was a S&W building down in downtown Asheville, North Carolina, and it turns out that Dad had died 10 years prior, and the kids owned this building. Well, it was 50s retro building and really, really gorgeous, but the exciting part was when we got down to the basement, turns out that Dad was a hobby winist, and he produced, to the tune of, as a hobby, 25,000 bottles of wine a year. And as we're getting a tour of the basement, we're walking sideways through these shelves that were stacked really, really high. It would be a glass bottle on the floor, and then cinder blocks and a 2x12 piece of board, and then another bottle, and then bottles, and then another stack of cinder blocks and more boards and glassware. So anyway, we're walking through these aisleways of glassware just to the ceiling of this huge basement. And I did manage to find a couple of pictures. I didn't take pictures at the time. Like I said, it was a number of years ago. But I do have some pictures. I'm going to insert them in here so you get an idea what we're talking about. But the idea was, I'm in this basement, and the guy's telling us, well, I said, what are you going to do with all this glassware? There were cork bottling machines. There were presses that you'd squish the fruit and pull the wine out, or the juice. As again, I'm not a wine enthusiast. I don't know how to make wine. I don't know how to brew beer or anything like that. But the opportunity was there, and I'm getting this. I'm all excited about this. It was just a really exciting thing. And I asked him, I said, well, what are you going to do with all this glassware? And it turns out that not only was there these large glass bottles, and I'm going to show that in a second, but they're called carboys, and they would ferment the wine and well, beer also, but he would just do wine. Wine in these large glass 5 and 6.5 gallon containers or glassware. So what was down there was the glass bottles, there was restaurant grade commercial shelving, all the timber that was used for shelving, the cinder blocks, the presses, the corking machines, all this equipment. And I said, well, what are you going to do with it? He said, well, I'm going to call the Boy Scouts, or I'm going to call the recycling and just kind of have it removed. And I'm like, I thought to myself, well, there's got to be an opportunity here. This stuff has to be worth something. So I said, well, give me your name and number, and let me see if I can find somebody that might be interested. It was me that was interested. Turns out I got his number, and I ran back to my office, which from Asheville, North Carolina, my shop was in Burnsville. It was about a 45-minute ride. So I raced back to my office, I get online, I find out what these things are, and they're called carboys. And like I said, I'm going to show a picture of what they are in a second. And I made him an offer. I shot him over a fax at the time, as he didn't have an email number, but an email address, but he gave me his fax. I sent him over a fax, and I offered him 10 cents a bottle. And like I said, these are large glass, like a water cooler bottle. Like I said, I'll show them in a second. And there were a lot of them, and I had no idea how many until we started moving them. So he accepted my offer. Basically, it was $2,500 for everything that was in this huge basement. And it took me 2 months to move all of this equipment out, and that I still have my business to run from Monday through Friday, so the only time I had available was on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, from sun up till sundown. He ended up giving me keys to the building and there were access doors going into the basement from the outside. Well, the first day I got there, and I had one other person helping, and when you realize that you grab 2 bottles, one in each hand, and that's all you can carry, they're about 14.5 pounds a piece. And so you walk down, you grab them and you carry them up a full flight of stairs. I had brought a trailer and carpet padding. I figured I could lay them on their side, weave the carpet padding in between, and stack them all the way in the trailer. Well, about halfway through that day, my knees started giving out from walking the steps, and it wasn't necessarily the weight that was the problem, it was just the steps and the repetitiveness of it. So I ended up having to hire a couple of kids to help me out, where I would stay in the trailer and have the kids running back and forth down the stairs and carrying these bottles out. We could only get about 2 trips a day, packing a trailer, 14-foot trailer to the ceiling, running it up to my shop in Burnsville, and then emptying this glassware. I had a second floor that was a couple thousand square feet. The building itself was 7,000 square feet. So I'm going to show some pictures of that too, where we were starting to stack them. Unfortunately, I didn't take a lot of pictures at the time, but I do have a few to give the idea. So what I did was I moved all these bottles. It took me 2 entire months to move them. And then I started listing them on eBay. Well, eBay was really good at the time. There's some things have changed now, but there's certainly some opportunities to be made or to be had. Started put them on eBay for $25 a piece. Turns out these bottles were selling anywhere in the $29 to $36 price point plus freight. So I decided to put them on for, I think I started at 22 to 25 bucks, and I might have raised the price because I was shipping so many of these bottles. I ended up buying a tractor trailer load of shipping peanuts, because once I bought a custom-made box, I had a specific size box. It wasn't custom-made, but I did pay a little bit of a premium for it because it was an odd size. And then, of course, I had to do all the shipping peanuts, so I ended up buying a large, one of those big hoppers that, funnels all the peanuts down, and it's for packing and shipping. Turns out I'm shipping anywhere between 50 and 250 of these glass bottles. I forgot something. I forgot to tell you there were 1,000 cases of wine bottles on the 3rd floor, and there weren't any elevators. So 1,000 cases, brand new in boxes, brand new wine bottles in boxes, never used. 1,000 cases, so 12,000 bottles. I ended up buying them for about $2 a case. So I got the wine bottles on the top and the glassware. So I ended up selling the wine bottles for, I think it was $6.50 a case, $6.50 a case, and it was 2-case minimum. So at least I made a couple dollars on it. But the glassware, the large carboys, was really where it was at, shipping anywhere between 50 and 250 a week, which was unbelievable. The UPS trucks started coming every day, and they got to know that we're going to fill up a truck, and sometimes we'd fill up 2 trucks. So it turns out that this was a really unique opportunity, definitely outside my comfort zone, as both my mom and my dad were like, You bought what? I bought a winery. And it turned out it made $85,000. It just goes to tell you that, and it took me about a year to sell them all out, selling both the wine bottles and the large carboys, and there's some demi-johns in there also. I'm going to include some shots of those, where that's like a, and don't quote me exactly, but I think it was 9 gallons or 12 gallons, but they're very, very large. Beautiful bottles. I only had about a dozen of those, but I ended up selling them for $225 each, so it was quite a find, in that I paid 10 cents a piece for them. So that's basically the story. So the idea is that I'm telling this story, much like I'm telling you today, what it is that I did to a friend. It wasn't the same real estate friend, but it was another real estate friend. I'm telling him the story, and he says, "What are you doing? What are you up to?" And I tell him the same thing, and he ends up saying, "Wow, that's really cool." It made me want to start this video blog, because what he had done, he offered me the opportunity to come speak at his real estate investment group. It was called CREA at the time, Carolina Real Estate Investors Association. And he says, "Would you like I'm the president of the association," which I had no idea. He says, "Would you like to be our guest speaker?" I thought, why not? This is awesome. How long do I have to speak for? An hour and a half. And I thought, wow, okay. Well, I just told this whole story in a matter of a few minutes. But I said, all right, fine. I have other stories that I'm going to tell on my video blog, which each video will have a different segment and opportunity, and something that I actually did, put my hands on, got dirty and did, and made money at. And everyone, all my friends are like, "I can't believe the stuff that you get into. I can't believe you make money the way you do." And usually it's just outside of my regular business or my regular job or whatever it is that I'm doing. I've been an entrepreneur most of my life. And I currently own a business. We'll get to that later. But let me finish with this story. My friend invites me to the thing. I go there thinking that, oh, it's going to be a dozen guys sitting at a conference table. And he said, well, usually we have investors or real estate people speaking at our real estate group. And he's like, it's kind of boring. I said, I could understand that. He says, it'd be nice to have an entrepreneurial speaker to kind of give us a new view on things. So I ended up telling a story. I told another story with palm trees, and we'll get to that, like I said, and my vending business, which was my highlight of my entrepreneurial career. And we'll get to that. It's a long story. But what I'd like to do is tell you, I go to this meeting and find out that it's at a college, and there were an auditorium type seating, and 280 something people were there. Well, I was a little floored, but I thought, well, I could speak in front of anybody, no problem, let's do this. I spoke in front, got them all excited, and they couldn't believe it. And the biggest thing was the president, my friend Jim, comes up to me and says, hey, Kev, I've never, ever had anyone come in as a speaker here and have complete silence, that everybody's so enthralled with your story. And that I gave them ideas and inspire them to look outside the box and consider what other opportunities are out there, because there's quite a few. And I have, like I said, numerous stories. I hope that you'll subscribe to my channel. This is the first video. Bear with me. It's not going to be perfect, but that's okay. I ended up speaking to these 280 people. I know I'm jumping around, and I apologize for that. But at the end of it, I had about 15 people in line waiting to speak with me regarding their opportunity and what they were considering doing and what my thoughts were on it. I've done a lot of these things, so I'm really... All right, we're going to meet the dog. I'm an extreme dog dad, and this is my baby Lily. Yes, Daddy's here. So she's going to be pestering me from time to time, and so there she is. Good girl. All right, go lay down. I'm speaking with all these folks, and they're really excited, and I'm more than enthusiastic about these opportunities that they're bringing to me, that I could possibly help them to decide, help them to make some money, and possibly help them financially to get involved, because a lot of people have these great ideas, they can't get involved, they don't have the money, they don't have the wherewithal, and they're afraid. After I did the speaking segment, I realized that this is pretty exciting, and I could probably, as I didn't realize it, that I was always looking for these opportunities. I always was looking for some sort of a deal and talking to people. And I guess the most important thing about what I would like to say is that you need to ask questions. If you want to get involved and start making money, just ask questions when you're out in the field and you're talking to people. That there may be opportunities that when you're speaking, more often than not, you're already repeating something that you already know. But if you ask an open-ended question of who, what, when, where, why, you usually get some information that you can learn from. So to wrap this all up is that keep your eyes open. You never know what you're going to find out there. And the way I like to look at some of these opportunities is, I'm not a big sports person, but I like to consider them from a baseball diamond. And I'll look at it and say, well, that was a single. You know, I got a single on that. I made some money at it. It didn't take a whole lot of effort, but it wasn't a lot of money, so it wasn't certainly not a home run. I have a bunch of singles, a number of doubles, some triples, some home runs. That we're going to go over and talk about, and I'll give you as much insight as possible to motivate you to do the exact same thing. So welcome aboard. Thanks for watching.